welcome to We're Not Wizards. We are the best, but not wizards. Enjoy the show!
Hello and welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I'll be your host for September. It's starting to get cold. Well, it's not really starting to get cold. Has it ever got warm? I don't know. Why am I starting the show every single time at the moment talking about the weather? I'm like some old person at a bus stop, just sitting there, complaining, reminiscing, thinking back to what I was doing about 5 years ago. As you do, you remember the good times. You remember the first times. And I remember the first time that I spoke to one of these glorious people. And it was awesome. In fact, it might have been decking awesome, to be perfectly honest. I was joined at the time by Eoin Costelloe from Decking Awesome Games because they were going to chat about their upcoming Kickstarter Dice Summoners. And Dice Summoners went on and it got funded. And it's out there in the wild and people are kind of playing it. And I spoke about it at the time. And then what happens is that you fast forward a couple of years until like literally 3 days ago and you bump into them at Tabletop Scotland. You don't, and I'm talking them. And what I mean is I don't just mean Owen, I also mean Ciara as well. So joining me, I've got Ciara Costelloe. I've got Owen Costelloe. We're here to talk about not just enriching your life, but saving lives. We're talking about saving Snowball, which is a beautiful bunny, a little white bunny that we're all going to find out about. We're going to find out about how you can make a rabbit escape room. Pretty much.
Hello, Richard.
Hello.
Hello.
It seems like ages, I was saying, but it's actually Tabletop Scotland, which we kind of like met. So, if I had my thinking hat on, I probably should have taken lunch break and then just kind of took my laptop and disappeared into a room. And then we could have all just recorded together at the same time, couldn't we?
In real life.
In real
like
life.
in person.
Yeah, but then that'd be weird.
You were busy though at the convention.
Oh,
right?
I was really busy. Tabletop Scotland was a lot of fun, but it was also I was demoing games kind of like both days, along with for Hachette Games, which was incredibly good fun and also incredibly rewarding as well, because it's another thing kind of talking about stuff that you enjoy, but I'm going to touch very briefly on it, but it's just like eureka moments when you're teaching somebody a game and you almost see that little kind of, and they're like, oh, I get it. And so it's like all the way. So you're kind of like, I was teaching Stomp the Plank, which takes about 30 seconds to kind of teach, and Corridor, which is like spelt with a Q, and it's got like a wooden thing. It's all made of wood, and there's Quahali, which is all made of wood, and then there was like Marrakesh, which is carpets, and then there was my favorite game, Acropolis. But it was all this like in the Path of Darwin was a new one that's come out, which a lot of people really liked, and then I had Miller Zoo, which is a mixture between a kind of a resource management and kind of almost like a legacy type game, but aimed at kind of like families and kids. But there was all these little moments where you just seen people kind of all of a sudden go from kind of like some strange person is teaching me in a wizard hat to actually going, oh yeah, I get this, I understand it. So there's all that kind of wonderful kind of moments. Because you were there for kind of, I guess, business and pleasure, I guess.
Yeah,
so
you had actually shown us in the Path of Darwin.
Yes.
You demoed us to us, and it was really good fun. We really enjoyed that. Yeah.
Yeah, Darwin's really, really good fun. dark.
Yeah.
I
It's
mean,
good because
I'd say
it's the concept of you start off just choosing the animals you like.
yes,
That's how you start to play, and then at the end you realize that's not how you win. But you
no,
had a good time.
yeah, exactly. And you've got a menagerie of like about 65% of all the animals that you wanted, and then 35% of the animals that you kind of like run away hiding if you actually kind of seen them in kind of real life. So were you up the entire weekend? Were you up from the Friday then, Kira?
no, we came over the Saturday, so
Wow.
um lack of holidays meant this was a roller coaster of a convention. And we arrived we flew at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Hmm?
So we took planes, trains, cars, taxis, everything to get there before like 9:15 or something like that in the
Um,
morning. Uh,
and you just arrived and kind of like rocked up. I didn't realize you'd actually had such a. You'd already been on a journey before you were starting your kind of your journey.
hours on a journey, and we had like it was really good. Owen was in charge of planning and did manage to get us there with all our arms and legs, so that was a good achievement.
Where did you fly from?
Dublin into Edinburgh, and then
Wow,
trams and trains to from Edinburgh out. And we were really lucky, so we caught everything that we were supposed to, like
really?
every tram and everything. And then because we were worried, we had a playtesting session at 12, and we were like, "Oh my god, are we going to make it?" And then we were there at 9, and it was like, "Well, we have loads of
You just
time."
got to nothing now. You're just gonna chill out and do absolutely nothing at all. You would have been like the McAllisters in Home Alone, running through the airport trying to get there on time, and then realizing you're arriving like two hours early for the gate, and there's nothing you can do about it except sit there and worry. Was it a Ryanair flight that you got over, or was it EasyJet? Good
Ryanair,
old Ryan.
yeah.
Good old Ryanair. Do they still charge you for the number of times you breathe in as well as the number of times you kind of breathe out on the plane?
It's your blood type now. They charge you based on your blood type.
Is it? and how long your nails are, because and the kind of the tread that you've got on your shoes, because if you've got a bigger, because I think I heard if you've got a bigger tread on your shoes, you wear down the steps going into the plane, and you also wear down the carpet inside the plane a bit more. And if you've got long nails, there's potential damage on the seats. So anybody that's got new shoes and good nails, they're going to get charged extra. As far
Those
I
As
thieves,
they
would,
should.
those
As they should.
I wouldn't be kind of surprised. Last time we spoke, we talked about dice summoners, and that went out into the wild, and that became a thing. And I mean, we're talking kind of 2018, where COVID was just, let's face it. I think when we met up, everybody was like people were spitting on their hands and then high fiving, and it's like there was definitely there was like the breathing games, and who could cough the furthest, and
No one knew how to wash their hands.
nobody exactly. Everybody kind of like went, they went, let's have a sniff. Oh, I don't know. I think you should go to the doctor. You could have a kidney infection. So it's that kind of thing. And so did I take it? Did it kind of put a bit of a kind of a kibosh on your kind of development? Because I'm guessing after Dice Summoners, where you had some momentum, then it must have been, well, what do we do next? I'm guessing by the time that Dice Summoners kind of fulfilled, you were kind of heading towards, at the time you didn't know it, kind of heading into kind of like COVID territory. So did that change your direction and where the company kind of had to go, or what it was going to do then?
Yeah. So yeah, it definitely did. I think we had a couple of games in development at that time, and we kind of had to pivot it. Obviously, when COVID happened, we couldn't do those regular game development sessions anymore with the people we knew.
Mm-hmm.
So we started to do, obviously, like everybody else during the pandemic, we started a podcast. And we started doing game development. We had a game development podcast, and it went really well. I think at least we explored it from our point of view, what we wanted to show.
Yeah.
And it also helps people who don't know about us to get to know us. And then we also did like Dungeons and Dragons. Right. Which we
That's what I was going to ask about, because looking at your website, because I do my research.
Yeah.
Don't look at me like that. But then I noticed I was kind of like, oh, it's a Christmas dice bauble, and then there's like, oh, the Dragon of Skellig Island. I was like, that's a bit of a different kind of direction for you
Yeah.
guys. So was that a direct result of what happened during the kind of the pandemic itself?
I think we definitely wanted to write more. We had those ideas of Dungeons and Dragons, and then when it came to actually, we still played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons during COVID, so it was still pretty much the only way of doing it. The board game sessions were out, and then came online D&D, and so yeah.
Were you all in the like kind of in what they would call a bubble then? So you were all able to see each other, or were you still doing stuff online?
We did stuff online a lot. So we had started a campaign before the pandemic, and then that moved online. And I guess we played it more regularly a little bit as well, because like sometimes it'd be weeks between sessions. But while no one could do anything else, we really dedicated ourselves to D&D.
It's like, shall we do? Okay, so we done Monday, Wednesday. Then what about Friday? I mean, the telly's dull, and we could do it during the kind of the Taoiseach announcements as well. Yes, I know what the Prime Minister of Ireland's called. Thank you very much. I just like to point that, just like that, because that's what I mean. That's because you've been. I take it you based around Dublin area. Then you're not too far from it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you would have had completely kind of sensible, organised announcements support. Because instead of everybody go to restaurants, I'm paying, which is kind of what we had. But do you still play the D&D then, Ciara? Is that still something that's kind of continued as it goes on?
Yes, and I recently took a stint at being the dungeon master. So Owen is normally the dungeon master, or he was for a long time, and it was much harder. So I love playing D&D. I don't know that I love DMing or being the dungeon master as much, because it is a lot of things for my brain to get its head around. And all I want to do is trap my players in random puzzles, and all they want to do is fight their way out, or randomly accuse random characters of things.
We're playing Blades of the Dark, and Blades in the Dark, and the DM, who's amazing, Chris, he's fantastic, and I've said to him many times he's amazing in private and in public as well. But he had built this entire scenery around one of our characters kind of going into a tavern in order to kind of, or a pub, because it's Blades in the Dark, and going and interrogating and speaking to certain characters. And Peter decided he wasn't going to do that. So he'd spent ages kind of building characters and backstory. And the guy kind of walked in and went, nah, this looks dodgy, I'm not doing that. And so it's like you got into that thing where it's like, and there's a big sign, and you can either go left or right. Now on the right hand side, there's brambles. There looks like to be a tripwire. The place is half on fire, and there's definitely some scurvy there as well. Or you can go on the shiny left white tiled path that appears to have the smell of freshly baked bread wafting down from the left hand corridor. And you can hear gentle, friendly singing. Which way do you want to go, guys? Which way? Left or right? Left, or I think we'll go right. Yeah, definitely. I'll get my clippers out, and it's just like, what are you doing? Which is why I couldn't do a DMing thing. I'm right up there with you, Ciara. I couldn't do a DMing thing because first of all, I talk non-stop. I'd give them such backstory, and we get like five minutes of actual play done. And secondly, if they went the wrong way, I'd be like, nah, I spent hours doing this. You're going that way.
It's too many times, way too many times I've DM'd and had like a special ring, the special cursed ring. No one does anything with the cursed ring. No one puts it on. They realize it's cursed. They leave it where it is. And I'm like,
Exactly.
man, there's a character in that ring as well.
Exactly. I've got 500 pages of backstory that I wrote. It was so good that I had to stop for a cry, kind of halfway through. So, is that what made you decide to create the Dragon of Skellig Island? Then was it kind of like I mean, was it something you wrote together? Was it a separate project for one of you?
It was something we were kind of burning on the back burner for a while. That we wanted to do the board games as first, get the first 3 board games kind of designed and developed. But then we also still wanted to write D&D, and we thought there was a really good way of creating an adventure for brand new DMs.
Mm-hmm.
So Richard, if you ever wanted a DM, it's a perfect spot for you. And that way it kind of just it briefly kind of goes into the rules of 5th edition without kind of over explaining everything, but kind of gives you the main points that players love, which is like player history and cool NPCs and stuff like that. Without like you don't have to read the entire book. So yeah, that was and when Ciara's writing her adventure as well, we wanted to try and link them all together into this one kind of Irish mythological story. So we're definitely stealing lots of stuff from Irish mythology and turning it into D&D. Yeah, it was really interesting.
That's what, isn't it? That's what your man that wrote his Dark Materials, Philip Pullman, says. He says something like he thought like steal like a butterfly, right, like a bee or something like that. He says he just says take from everywhere. Take from everywhere that you can, and then put something together out the back of it, because at least you've got solid mythology and you know where the kind of the story's going. And it's all about, if I say to people, I'm going to do a dungeon adventure about Loch Ness, you all know what's going to potentially going to happen, because you know about the mythology kind of surround. Oh, it's not mythology because obviously. Yeah, exactly. It's Queen Loch Ness monster and her haggis armies kind of thing. But if I said that, then you would know exactly what we're talking about. So if you bring that kind of mythology in, then people kind of already expect it. But it's then you kind of like do a twist, and it turns out that actually the Loch Ness monster is just a very, very good kind of semi-aquatic mammoth that evolved over a period of time, and what you see coming out the water is its trunk, kind of thing. That's how I would write a kind of adventure.
It's brewing up already. I can see.
I see. This is the thing, but the other thing is as well is I knew I'd get right into it, and I'd end up doing voices, and then halfway through I would forget all the voices that I've assigned to everybody. And then all of a sudden, the voices would just have to stop, because I'd start off and go, "Oh, you're into the inn, and you're speaking to Gunther," and Gunther's like, "And what do you want on this fine day?" And then that'd be all the way. But then I'd forget about it and just say, Gunther just says hello, because I've done 52 different kind of character voices for kind of everything. On the game side, because you're kind of, some people were obviously furloughed and some people weren't. But did that help with the development side of things? Did it make it more free and easy, or did it kind of make it more difficult? And how did you start to kind of, because I'm guessing that in terms of, like, say, Dice Summoners, it was a case that you guys would just get together, you'd be thrashing kind of through ideas and mechanics and stuff like that. So with the inability to do that, did you do stuff separately, or did you still try to kind of meet up to kind of keep the board game design stuff going?
I think it was much harder than it was before with Dice Summoners. So with Dice Summoners, we had a lot of momentum we kept.
Mm-hmm.
But with everything that happened, like, we changed a lot of how we did our jobs, and everything changed,
Mm-hmm.
and where we let go, and a lot of things meant that we did lose a bit of that momentum we had.
Mm-hmm.
We sped into game development after Dice Summoners was released, into new games and new ideas, and then like that all went on hold for like at least a year and a half, I'd say. And then we kind of came back to it. We did all do bits and pieces, and we dipped in and out of games, and we still talked about games a lot because everyone loves to talk about games.
Yeah.
But that development piece, that we when in between lockdowns, we'd go to like a playtest group or even just a board game group play games and get some feedback on some of the games. And then it would be like, oh, it's another like 8 weeks before we can
Yeah,
see
yeah,
somebody. And like say Snowball definitely is one of those ones where the puzzles either work or don't work, and you need that feedback. You can't like keep going without. And once the lads had played the game once, you can't make them play it again because they know all the answers.
yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah, that must make it difficult because, and that's a nice segue. Kira, I like that. It's good to see somebody's in control of the show, and you're also breaking the tradition of bringing talking about a game kind of before the kind of the halfway,
45.
the 45-minute
Yeah.
mark, which is kind of like tradition. But I've done that quite recently. I don't know if it's an old New Year's resolution, but I'm certainly trying to get people on to talk about the games before we talk about before we get to that like 45-minute mark, which is incredible. But save Snowball, or as I was saying earlier on, Evas lab knobs, because of my mirror view in my camera. That's a departure. I'm gonna say that's when I got the email through and I clicked on it. I was kind of like, this is a bit of this was not what I was expecting from you guys.
I think we love like intro things, bringing new people into board games.
Yeah.
So like Dragon of Skellig Island was like bringing first time DMs in. Dice Summoners is like an entry game to a game night. And Save Snowball was like, really wanted to tell a story, and Brian and Owen really helped me bring it together. But what we wanted was to have a game that was like accessible to people like me, who I play escape rooms all the time, and I hate scary escape rooms, and I've had to play loads of them constantly, and I literally jump. I have on several occasions physically jumped in escape rooms, and because I don't love being scared. I do love trying to escape a locked room, and people seem to think they're the same thing. So we wanted to try something different here, where it's like you have to save your pet rabbit, but it's bright, it's colorful, it's a different story than your average. You're locked in the dungeon of a mad scientist, and he's going to come and get you in an hour and kill you. You know?
It was like at the last. I'm trying to remember the last kind of game I played. I think I reviewed a long time ago was an escape one, and it was a beautiful production. And you were kind of like, oh, this is lovely and wonderful, and it looks amazing. And I kind of really, really like how, the presentation and everything like that. But see, in terms of like the story was just, it was really, it got kind of like, it was based on like a comic character. And then it just kind of went kind of dark, very sad. And then you were just like going, not 100% sure. And it was it was very, very well done story. But as you say, you kind of got to the end, and I got to the end and breathed a sigh of relief, as opposed to getting to the end of it and going, well, that was an experience. That was wonderful. It was kind of like it was a bit of a journey. So when I see this, and I see the bunny on the front cover, because there's I'm going to explain, because this is great podcasting for you people. It's like, there he goes again. He's just I'm like an old person that's going to the post office on a Thursday, and this is the only conversation with real human beings I get during my week, so I'm sharing all of my news. But right, so it saves Snowball, and quite worried for the rabbit, if I'm honest, because it's on a table. It's a white rabbit. It's a cute white rabbit. There's standing to the right of them is a bonsai tree. There's a beaker. There's a pot plant on the floor. Not sure why that is. But then in the background, there's clearly they're in some kind of chemist class. There's kind of different conical flasks here. We've also, it appears we've got We've got like a chemical symbol on the back, which I don't know is correct or not, because they've potentially got carbon with 2 hydrogen strings off of it when it should actually have 4. But you know, I'm just I'm just saying, and the OH group should have a covalent bond on the end as well. I mean, you know, I did a bit of I'm a bit of a scientist myself. I'm worried for the rabbit because it appears it's in some kind of science place. And I'm worried if, like, you were able to scan the picture to the left or the right, there's scalpels and cages, Ciara. That's what I'm worried about.
That's true. That's true. But the elation is to save your pet rabbit. So the joy is going to come with breaking in and getting your rabbit back.
Oh, right. Okay. So, okay. And this is the thing, because I don't want to go into kind of like spoiler territory because we don't want to spoil anything. So, do you want to give us a kind of, I guess, as spoiler less as you can? What the kind of the
Yeah.
premise behind the game is?
So your pet rabbit has been kidnapped, straight out of your back garden, and you find out where she is, and you need to go break in, but with the help of somebody inside who's trying to help you save her too, because they've realized the error of their ways and they want to get the rabbit out safe and sound.
It's like a redemption story then. Is this like Shawshank, basically? You don't have to crawl through 100 yards of like.
It's the other way. It's like Taken. Liam Neeson.
Oh right, okay. That's again because it's a very colourful, delightful box. But if you're telling me this is kind of going to be uber violent, I don't know.
No.
I think that would be amazing. Can you imagine if somebody opened the box on that and they went like, it's a beautiful cartoony box, and they opened up and it just went, prepare for ultra violence, and just like that. And they've got like it reminded me of that little video that you get where somebody's giving a crab like a knife. The crab's like, come at me, bro. I'm gonna stab you. So what kind of puzzles? Because this suggests to me that this is a kind of a game that's pretty easy to kind of get through. Is it kind of yes, no? Do you have kind of like different levels?
No, it's more about like visual clues.
Right.
So it's telling the story of you traveling in to save your rabbit. So there's each section has a bit of text,
right,
to give you kind of context of where you are and to give you a reason to solve puzzles, because we love to have our escape room games to have an actual constant story rather than just to solve this new piece that's come in. So we tell the story of how you get in. There's a few option bits where you can choose to do one thing or the other, but for the most part, you're looking for visual clues throughout the game. Some of the pictures are just to give you an idea of what the whole building looks like and to give you kind of that immersion effect. And then others are like, try and figure out how to solve this clue and this puzzle with. They're always result in a 2 or 3 digit number. So it's kind of real consistent in how you get through it. You just have to, you're always looking for those patterns and connections to get that.
Did you consider, because some of the escape rooms that I know they've got, like, the replayability is very limited. And what I mean by that is you actually physically kind of like cut open, fold cards, destroy the objects kind of all the way through. Are you doing that in Save Snowball, or can I kind of like reset that and like let one of my other family members kind of play it?
You can definitely replay. So there's nothing damaged, nothing changed. There are a few unusual pieces in the game, but they all go back together when you're finished. So you can you can give them to people and share them with your friends and family.
And you've got hints as well.
Yeah.
You've got little hints on I guess that's kind of important, because if people are really, really playing it, they're either going to do it 2 ways. They're going to start riffling through the deck and just saying, right, I'm going to find out what I'm doing. Because I think you have to have like a kind of a bit of either a bit of determination about you, but also you need to make sure that you're not going to I'm just going to skip to the next one. I'm here by myself. Nobody's going to notice. But and is that a difficulty when it came to kind of playtesting?
Most people try and solve the thing.
Yeah.
But we do have the answer. So if you get 2 clues for each puzzle, and then you just get given the answer. For the people who are just like, this is not my thing. I just hate this puzzle.
Yeah.
I can't do it. And obviously you can't be there. So when we first play tested, we would give people hints, or we would like tell them the answer. And then we needed that whole mechanic to do that, because we can't be there staring over their shoulder.
Exactly. You can't be going, the left one. No. The tree. No. For goodness sake, give me the thing here. It's this one here. Kind of thing. But also that must have been really important, because one of the as somebody who, reviews games, and you can see my latest works in Tabletop Gaming Magazine. That's Tabletop Gaming Magazine. Thank you. It's a plug. There you go. For the bath. And
It's a good plug.
it's my dignity is draining away. But and I've forgotten what I was going to say, but it doesn't matter. But anyway, no. But did you have to, like, in terms of the playtesting, did you playtest kind of like different variations of the same puzzle to see how they would work out and what the kind of the success rate was in it? I mean, do you have like a huge spreadsheet which is full of ticks and crosses to say that we've tried this version of it and this worked, this was the time as well?
Yeah, and interpretation of success as well. So, like I was always about, the flow and stuff, but sometimes I wouldn't be caught up in like the right thing. So we have notebooks full of information on how well a puzzle went down, and they have been there's so many iterations of the puzzles, because sometimes it's like you change the puzzle doesn't work,
Yeah.
and people just don't like it, and that's fine. Or some people just can't answer it. There's some puzzles in there. The idea was to bring up the difficulty level as the game progresses.
Yeah.
Not too much, but just enough that it feels like you're climbing that hill, you're getting that success. And like the first iteration, like some of the puzzles just people gave up on. There's, one person might give up and you'd be like, oh, well, that's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But you got to see if multiple people are giving up, that's too much. Or people who love to play escape room games. So we also had like the type of people playing, and then in each of us had a different interpretation of how well it went each time it was a playthrough. So I think like my interpretation, I have a fear of people playing my games. So I'm always super like, yeah, with Dice Similars, with Save Snowball, whenever anyone's playing them, I'm like, oh god, this is I don't want to be here. And then like Owen and Brian were definitely more about the like getting more feedback on those things.
But did you get better at that then? Because I mean, okay, so you're putting the game out there. I mean, compared to kind of a vast number of people who have kind of like designs sitting in drawers or designs written on the back of cards. I mean, you're saying, oh, this goes to Kickstarter and kind of, or crowdfunding in like 3 weeks' time. You're doing more than an awful lot of other people, as well. I mean, there was a conversation on Blue Sky. Blue Sky, that's nice. Blue Sky is kind of a nice place, but somebody was saying like, kind of like, I'm looking for kind of help. I'm pitching a game to a publisher. What advice would you give? And one of the things I said was just be proud, because you have done what probably 90% of people in your situation have not done. They're not in a situation where they're actually sitting down in front of a publisher and saying, this is my idea for a game, it's fully developed, what do you think? So I think the fact that you guys are like, this is like your fourth thing that you've done, including like the Christmas dice, D&D stuff, dice summers and stuff like that. So this is the fourth thing that you've done. So it's probably, there's probably should be a little bit of self-congratulation kind of going on to that. It's a small box, and what I mean by that is, well, obviously what I mean by that is it's a small box, But what is there like a kind of I was gonna say this is gonna sound so terrible, but is there like a kind of a director's cut? I mean, is there like a Fatal Attraction bunny on the bunny in the pan, the bits that we didn't use kind of thing? I mean, is it because I can imagine with puzzle games there'll be two sides of it. There'll be one which will be kind of like, well, this is definitely staying in. And then there's others that you're kind of like, well, I want to keep this puzzle in because it's really kind of cool, even though 50% of the people didn't really kind of gel with
Yeah.
it.
There is definitely a lot that didn't go in. And there were some puzzles that I really held on to
Yeah.
that I really wanted to. And Owen and Brian had some amazing ideas that
Mm.
also, yeah, it was really an iterative process.
It's
There was
like,
definitely.
I'm hearing there was maybe a little bit of friction there when you were kind
I
of,
like I like the
you
idea
know.
of amazing ideas. There were definitely arguments
There was
about what should
that's what I
go.
was thinking. You
There
could
was
say,
arguments about what should go into the box. I think obviously Ciara has been has been smoking this up for a while.
yeah,
These ideas,
yeah,
and some of them were absolutely incredible. I think when we came to actually coming into the Kickstarter, we kind of had to make things as not as cheap as possible, but like
no,
put it into the format that we wanted.
yeah,
So the choice was either to have a bigger box escape room or to
yes,
have like a smaller one where we could show off. Here are the kind of puzzles that we like that can be made pretty straightforward,
hmm,
and then kind of put that in. So there's a lot of talk about trying to get the most interesting ones into the
hmm,
game,
hmm,
and then see if we could just take out the ones that needed tweaking. Which also, problems when you have problems like that, you get a lot of ingenuity. So we were able to actually mix a couple of puzzles in together
hmm,
into the same components and stuff
yeah,
like that,
yeah,
and that really it saves us time. So, but also you just get more ideas into the same box. So
yeah.
those kind of things they're arguments, but they're also very constructive.
And it's that time. It's like, well, I don't need to speak to you over the internet at all. And it's like, why isn't there more lockdown? then I could just ignore you. But does that mean that there is kind of like another box full of kind of puzzles and other things as well? So, because the thing I notice about the exit games, as in the exit games, is they're a series.
Yeah.
So I can imagine, people go. What's going to happen is when people go, oh yeah, this is really cool. I like this, and I want more of it. People will want more of it, and it's not. I don't think it is. I think it's one of these things that if with something like this, if people go, yeah, save Snowball, wonderful, fantastic, love the idea, love the premise, love the fact I'm not going through another Egyptian tomb trying to escape the curse of the mummy, loving that. But what I want to know is, do we have like, do we have like help Harry the hamster? Do
or,
we
or
have, do we have aid Aaron the orangutan? I mean, do we have, I'm just spitballing here. I'm giving you names. You're not writing them down.
well, I think we're gonna settle on save Snowball again. No.
So could it be like, I don't know, is it going to be like was it Penelope Pit Stop in the Anthill Mob? You just get
Where's
Dick
Snowball?
Dastardly coming along again and again and again. Because I tell you something, see by about the fourth game, you're just going to get bored with like saving the rabbit because it's going to be like it just manages to get itself in trouble. Yeah, I
And
mean, we could have a dog.
the third one is Snowball has to save you.
I think this is like Taken, isn't it? You're turning this like into kind of like a kind of a Taken thing, basically.
There is a. I was just gonna say, yeah, there is a lot of components and puzzles that we have ideas for.
Right.
I think the cool thing about Save Snowball, I thought, was because sorry, Ciara has played almost every escape room in Ireland and is working her way through the UK.
Yeah, Dublin. We're finished Dublin. We have no more escape rooms. It's tough. I have to actually travel now. Every time I want to do an escape room is like a day trip.
Do you have to like wear? I can imagine you just having to go in wearing disguises. because they're going like, you know, because it's like they're just here to beat the record, and if they beat the record, they win the prize, kind of thing. And you're kind of like sidling up with like some kind of twirly moustache and a top hat going on, and going, "Aren't you Ciara Costelloe who came in last week?" It's like, "No, I'm Colin Castiglione. I'm here to try your escape room. Thank you very much." And so it's almost like, is it like a badge of honor to potentially be kicked out of every escape room in Ireland?
The advantage is we used to have we got to talk to some of the designers on escape rooms, which kind of was one of the steps towards coming up with something like Save Snowball. But after one time we were going through one of the games, I was talking to the designer, and they were like, yeah, we actually leave in all the hard puzzles when you arrive, when we see your name on the booking. And then they're like, and this other escape room who we had also met before after the game,
Yeah.
because we get through them quite fluidly. We now have a really good team dynamic. We talk a lot. We're very good communicators. So people are always like our fluid teamwork when we're doing it. So they remember us. And then they're like, yeah, no, we put in extra hard puzzles when you come along that we didn't have because we know what you're like.
It's like when you go to the local kind of Bangladeshi kind of restaurant, and they go, "Oh yeah, no, put the extra spicy stuff on them." They're the kind of things saying, "I've seen you've got the mild jalfrezi on tonight." "Oh yeah, I'll show you. There you go. Spice, tons of spice." I'm not going to tell you what I was doing with my hands there. In terms of price, then, because I can imagine, like we talked about the box size. But is this like are you getting this printed then locally because of the size of the box, or are you looking at manufacturers in China again? Because the costs still seem to be huge, kind of going to China. Do you know, is Cartamundi still a thing, or is it shut down now?
They are still a
Are
thing,
they still a thing?
but yeah, they like bigger games, like more units
Yeah.
that you're going to get printed. But we looked at going to China,
Yeah.
and we looked at staying in, I guess, the EU. So for us, um, it was a toss up, and then we got the prices back,
Uh,
and actually the EU, we kind of, so we had an initial idea of how much it was going to cost, and the more we've developed the game and worked, I think this time we worked with a lot more knowledge about how to make it more cost effective, and what we thought we were going to have to sell the game for, we're still trying to figure it out, but it's come down because we really can find really good manufacturers in Europe now that are closer, that your shipping cost is over land or over like a
yeah.
ferry,
Yeah.
and that's bringing it down a lot. And one of the manufacturers we were looking at or talking to, like, they're talking about eco-friendly plastics or biodegradable plastics, and
Yeah.
those sorts of options that aren't really available in China,
No.
or in
No.
Shenzhen or Hong Kong at all.
Yeah.
And that's kind of sold us on like the kind of the costs. It's still cheaper to get it done in China, but when you take in shipping and everything like that, and the length of time shipping is going to take, it really is giving us a lot of options.
And it's the unknown as well. And it's let's face it, it's the actual unknown of all it takes is something else to happen. I mean, in some cases we've had one thing after another kind of kicking off, and it's not necessarily been kind of COVID related. You've had kind of like the whole kind of oil and gas price going through the roof before it came down again, but the petrol stations don't seem to have got the memo yet because it's still ridiculously expensive. But that's for another podcast at another time. But yeah, so I can see. I don't know. See, my thing with kind of like local manufacturing is it's making it kind of cost effective, but also I think it's also making it as quick as possible, because I think there is an attraction. I think the difficulty in the UK is that business costs are so high at the moment. I think there's a definite appetite. I mean, if I opened up a printing studio, then I'm pretty sure I could get some orders kind of coming through pretty quickly. Not huge ones, not massive ones, but definitely kind of reprints and stuff like that. And I think Cartamundi, I'm pretty sure I read that they were going through trouble, but they seem to have maybe turned it around since the kind of the whole fuel cost of living stuff. Probably because people looked at places in China and then went, well, yeah, but I'm not going to get it for 16 months because there's a backlog there, or I can get it printed, 3 months down the line, and I can actually go and visit it. I can jump on a plane really easy, or I could jump in the car, or I could get the 29A bus and it stops outside Kathmandu, and I can go and see the pallets of games for my kind of myself. I don't know. It's kind of I think it's kind of like I think there's a lot of people that have an appetite and thinking about it, but I think it's a huge investment up front to kind of get the machines. And if you're going, and I think one of the things that we don't do over here at all is minis. I think there's a lot of places doing kind of like, there's a lot of places you can send STL files to now, and they'll print your stuff for you. But I don't think there's like a mass producer of minis over in the UK or over in the EU at all.
Yeah, like, sorry, from Ireland's perspective, Cartamundi were the only people here, and they're gone. So, or they're shutting up factory. But as I said, they wouldn't do small games. But we don't even, like, we struggle to get local printing. We have often gone to the UK for printing our prototypes, or Belgium, or to just, we'd love if there was somewhere closer that could print. Now, for the prototype, actually, we got there is a laser cutting place, Tech Create in Ireland.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a local company, and they are really great, and they are like so friendly. But they're like, they're one of the few places where it's just somebody you can chat to, go into the shop,
Yeah.
talk to, and have a chat about. But like, they don't even print cards; they just laser cut things.
Yeah, and it's the expense and the expertise as well, because I guess it's, I don't know. As I say, it'd be interesting to see if somebody jumps in. I don't know if somebody will kind of jump in. We'll see if it continues. I think if prices continue to rise, then I think that what will happen is it will end up kind of. So in terms of cost, you mentioned that you haven't come up with a final cost. Do you have a ballpark figure for what kind of like your pledges? I mean, you're 3 weeks away. I mean, plenty of time.
Well, we're trying to bring it down.
Yeah.
So I think we had thought we would have to sell it for around 18
Yeah.
euro, which isn't that far off the exit games,
No.
I don't think, or at least what they sell for in Ireland. But we are trying to figure out what we can do in that space to reduce it down. So anything we can, yeah, we're at this point, we're just talking to some very helpful manufacturers, and we did get the prototype printed in Cartamundi, and that did help us get an idea of what we could and couldn't do. And then we talked to actually at the UK Games Expo, we had some really good meetings with Fabrique Cart, who gave us like loads of tips.
All right.
Even if anything else, just tips on what we could and couldn't do that might save us some money. So they've been helping. I think that process, it's hard because obviously they don't want to spend time on things that are just ideas.
Yes.
And then you're like, well, we're going to kickstart, so can we get down to the nitty gritty before we start to try and fund this?
Yeah, no. I mean, again, it's like I've seen. You see so many campaigns where they're kind of like, oh, we'll set a funding goal at $7,000, and then they hit $7,000, and then they're like, oh, we've got to cancel, guys, because it's going to have a really, really interesting conversation with my other half if if we funded the $7,000,
Yes.
and then it's like kind of like we don't need second mortgages. Everyone has one, don't they? Kind of thing. But then on the manufacturing. Then on the manufacturing side, the size of the box as well, it's kind of strange because you're saying this is like probably 17, 18 euros. But then you can, the exit boxes are double the size. was that into consideration as well? Because I'm not sure there's much of a difference in terms of I mean, this is. I'm tapping the box with my fingers. But this is a fairly solid box, and I know that you can sometimes pick up the exit boxes and you can rattle them. You can rattle them about a bit because there's like one thing of cards and there's some other components, and I know people that love them, so I'm not. But was there a part you went, maybe we should make the box slightly bigger for kind of presents on the shelf and stuff like that? Did you have to kind of maybe take that into consideration?
So we're not sure on the final box. They're the discussions that we're trying to have. Yeah. So it is quite dense. That is the thing.
Yeah.
It's quite squishy and hard to get back into that box.
Yes.
So there is a lot to be said for having a little bit of space inside the box. However, it's also not as environmentally friendly to have the bigger box.
Yes.
So that's like, we don't want to unnecessarily burden the environment with that.
Oh no, just for the sake of shelf presence.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
it's a really hard. It's so hard to mix all those things because you're getting feedback on all of them. You're getting feedback saying, this is how you save money, time, and environmental costs, and then this is how you sell, and yeah, it's tough.
I mean, we really should have had this conversation in person at the weekend when we had the time, because we are literally being rather unenvironmentally friendly. As you know, meeting again over the internet, using electricity, using bandwidth. You know, there's probably somebody in a forest somewhere just setting fire to pandas, saying, "Well, that they're using the broadband to have the internet." Just burn them all, burn that square bit of forest as well. Has you're effectively kind of starting again in terms of from the marketing point of view, because again, the great kind of the COVID resetting kind of a lot of people's momentum. So what is your, with what you knew from how you handled the campaign with Dice Summoners, has there been is it changed an awful lot from trying to create kind of like the buzz, trying to create the noise this time?
Yeah, I think we definitely learned a lot from the Dice Summoners Kickstarter. I think it's about getting the game out, but also, you're right, there's the people who kind of back people on Kickstarter, they're game enthusiasts. You also want to kind of show them that you have something that you can back, and then you should also follow us as part of a journey that we're going on, because that's pretty much what we are. And that's why Save Snowball is kind of a smallish game. We didn't want to bring out a medium-sized game or a big, large game, because we knew that you want people to see your game in their hands, the previous one that you've made, and they go, I really like this. I'll tell my friends that, hey, these same group of guys and girls have a big board game coming out. I really like them. And then, so I think is definitely a conscious decision to choose to pick Save Snowball and kind of focus on that as a development thing.
And has it been interesting for you, Owen, as a kind of like, because this sounds like kind of Ciara's baby bunny. So has it been interesting have you been developing other games for Deck and Awesome, or have you been like, has this been kind of like a different kind of journey for you to go, well, I need to get involved in this?
Yeah, I think it's weird to have such a thing that everyone loves doing what they do all the time. So Dice Summoners was definitely my kind of thing that we're doing. But we all helped out, and then obviously there's the D&D writing, which me and Ciara love to do. And then Ciara was the Save Snowball, and then Brian is working on Bumper Bots. And I think it's awesome because I love playing board games, and I don't really play enough escape rooms. And so when I play Snowball and Ciara comes up with these new changes and stuff, I still love to play that game.
Yeah.
And so for me, I just get to see this game develop and grow alongside everybody else. And so I really do enjoy it. And obviously I'm chipping in, I'm telling, like, these kind of things can change here and here, and what about this? But yeah, it's awesome.
And because you're not like as a fan of the genre, as Ciara is, that must mean that in terms of criticism, and I guess Are you a little bit more sharp when it comes to the criticism as well? I guess because,
Yeah.
yeah. Because of the related part here. I
Yeah.
guess you're not kind of too backwards about coming forwards and just saying, "Look, I don't mind kind of hurting your feelings." After but are you more likely to say, "Right, look, this works, this doesn't work. I think this is brilliant, but this is crap. You need to get rid of it," kind of thing.
Yeah, I think even if I'm really harsh with Ciara, it comes from a loving place. But I think it's also because Ciara has heard me say much worse things in the past to her.
Exactly. Like
But also,
this is water
yeah,
off a duck's back.
yeah,
This
yeah.
is
Saying
almost
this,
it's like a
this,
Christmas jumper.
yeah, like saying this card isn't so good, or I don't like it,
Yeah.
or for like these specific reasons.
Mm.
It sounds really harsh, and it is, but it comes from a good place, and Kieran knows when I'm actually being really angry, so there's no like miscommunication.
Yeah, but now on the other side of it, you sometimes need that. I think sometimes when it's like I'll give you an example. I reviewed a game recently, and I made comments along the lines of, "This is a wonderful game, but there's pretty much no multiplayer here at all. It's quite literally solitaire. You're lining up at the table, you're taking your shot, you're then taking your pieces off the table. The next person kind of comes along." And I was like, when I wrote it and published it, I was kind of like, oh, people might take this slightly the wrong way. But then I got an email from the publisher saying, thanks for the feedback. This is great. We realize this. We realize the points that you kind of raised at the time. And yeah, this is, kind of value for us. And it's just, again, it's kind of like, it's like, I think there's kind of, we're very much caught in the kind of the influencer trap in board game media in some cases, that everything's wonderful. I always joke with people, and I use this joke again and again and again, but certain board game influencers would say that every single Star Wars film was perfect and brilliant and absolutely fun. Uh, but they would be afraid of saying, I actually don't like this one. Just because
Yeah,
I want to
yeah,
be positive about the scene. It's like, well, people can't learn if you're positive all the time, but it's gonna, but so I'm gonna rip this to shreds. I am gonna rip
yeah. Well, the
this
thing is, if you
to shreds.
it doesn't take long to get an opinion of what Jar Jar Binks is, Like you see Jar Jar Binks, you go, I either like him or I don't.
I know,
Right?
but also at the same time, right? Right. When I saw Star Wars originally, yeah, I was probably about 7 years old, 6 or 7 years old. So it was right in the zone. It came out in, was it 77? I saw it when it was like maybe 80, 81. So I was maybe 6 years old, 7 years old. So it was right at the time. The guys that saw that Phantom Menace they would have had parents who probably saw the original Star Wars. So they took their kids along to see the Star Wars. And a lot of these kids loved kind of Jar Jar Binks, I guess. So my
Yeah.
analogy is completely falling apart.
I think from our point of view as board game developers and testers,
Mm.
we've seen it all. So when we go to conventions, people are very positive, people are very negative. But I will say, on the whole, it's incredible. Tabletop Scotland, UK Games
Yeah.
Expo, everyone is very positive. The actual board game communities themselves very positive about a lot of things. And
Yes.
it's genuine. You can see like people genuinely enjoying themselves. They don't need to say anything sometimes,
Yes.
especially when you're playtesting, you can just see it in them.
Yeah.
That's kind of where you get most of your feedback from.
Yeah.
And so yeah, maybe in the online media, I wouldn't mind at all if people give us 1 star or 5 stars. To me that's
Oh, I see where
right.
you're going with that. But also at the same time, I think if I criticize something, it's born through the back of frustration. I didn't, going back to, and I'll tell you, it was Meeples and Monsters. I put the review out there. I said, it was highly frustrating for me that it's multiplayer solitaire and it's built up to look like this big huge family game, and it does have elements of that, but it's just frustrating. And I said, it's frustrating. I don't generally hate a lot of games. I find some games frustrating through the design decisions. It's very rare, if at all, that I'll look at a game and go, this is crap. There was one recently. I thought this is crap, but that's because it was. It was literally move a piece and collect the card, and I was like, this isn't a game. But anyway, that's beside the point. But on the other side of it, in terms of kind of, it's a balance, isn't it? Because you are looking for people who kind of are will go out there and kind of go, save Snowball. And then you'll be people that will go out there and say, yes, you can save Snowball. I would have liked to have seen this kind of thing. And I guess it's kind of getting that balance. You want people to kind of love it, but you've also got like, if you got this in the hands of, say, like Dan Thoreau, I love you, Dan. Please come on the show. He's well respected. He's a well respected critique in the kind of the board game space. But I guess if he reviewed your game and came up and says, I like this, I don't like this, this makes me uncomfortable, I'm not sure about this frustrates me. That's still kind of a review, isn't it? It's still kind of like getting the kind of the word out there. It's kind of like no publicity. Was it Jamie Stegmaier doesn't read reviews apparently?
Well, he has a lot of advantages.
It doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Good at this, yeah.
He's probably, was it getting to that point he used to say about Bill Gates, that if Bill Gates dropped like a fiver in the street, it would actually cost him more money to stop and pick up the fiver than it would for him to, kind of pick up the fiver base. It's like, yeah, I suppose it doesn't matter. But they say, yeah, but no, but in terms of me getting to eventually a question, but in terms of who you've approached, have you had to look at like, how do you make the decision about who you speak to, who you send a copy? Because these aren't cheap. Prototypes aren't cheap for games. They're potentially the most expensive. I mean, when I spoke to the guys who are, they were at Tabletop Scotland as well, the Old King's Crown. I don't know if you went to their stand. The game is huge. It's like got prototypes and it's got boards and it looks very, very much like a leader game. And they actually say in the credits, Leader Games actually kind of gave us some advice on this. But you can imagine that prototype must have cost. It's like at least a couple of £100 a shot, because they're not getting 1,000 made; they're going to get one made. So when it comes to you sending out prototypes, how have you been deciding who you've been sending them out to? Is it how annoying and Scottish they are, or is it based on kind of number of, do you look at the number of viewers they are? Is this the right account? Do they, I wouldn't send this to a wargamer. Should I send it to a wargamer? What are you kind of taking into account when you look at who you're getting to look at the game?
So obviously the game is only in English at the moment. We tried to make it so that it was, you can translate into different languages,
like American.
Exactly. So at the moment we like to focus on as local as possible. So it's all Irish, UK, and then we also sent some copies to the US. So I think that's the main point, is we're just trying to kind of spread our sections in there. Mm-hmm. We tried to do a couple of different ways of kind of spreading the word. Last time it was kind of like advertising and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This time we went into your favorite magazine, Tabletop Gaming Magazine.
Never heard of it.
So we have physical. There's a physical ad there for Save Snowball.
I'm actually looking. I've got a copy of it. I'm going to look for this I'm going to look for this advert to speak of. Mr. Costelloe. No, keep talking.
Yeah. So but actually, one of our good friends of ours is Ludus Vulpes. They do great board game reviews. They're obviously in Tabletop Scotland, traveling around, doing interviews with people. So I think we're trying to keep it local, but also sending it out to America, because obviously we're not going to visit America. There are a lot of conventions like Gen Con and stuff.
Do you not like Americans, Owen?
We love Americans, but just Gen Con and stuff that they don't mix with like GaleCon. I think it's on the same time, isn't it? So we kind of have to stick into the UK and Ireland.
And it's the travel as well, isn't it? An expense, and going out there with like kind of like the game as well.
And we don't have a presence there. I feel like we know like people from UK Games Expo and Tabletop Scotland, and like we want to build those relationships as much as we can.
So every time Ciara talks, it's like I'm trying to put her off, but I'm not trying to put her off. There you go. It's on the what page is it? I'm gonna just look because like every publicity is free publicity. Page number 64 on the top left hand side. There is an advert for Save Snowball. That's page 64 on Tabletop Gaming Magazine, and on page 93, it's my interview with it's my interview with Mantic Games about the Worms,
Nice.
the Worms board game coming to Kickstarter. But anyway, but you were
Back that already. So obviously based on
the fantastic interview that you read in Tabletop Gaming Mag. There's so much of this I'm going to have to cut out. It's just absolutely, it's just like that. It's like, I said, I'm going to put it's just ridiculous. But then on that, but getting the word out there. I mean, is there things that you are just like, I'm not going to do this time because it's cost too much money and we kind of don't see the return on it?
Some of the reviewers where you had to pay quite a high price for people that we couldn't maybe afford or we didn't get. We do assess to some degree, whether the people who follow those reviewers are going to be our target market, or at least roughly in our target market. As you say, there is no point getting a reviewer who's a wargamer to review your game. First of all, they're probably not going to love it. So, and if they do say they're going to love it, they're probably lying. So it's not going to feel authentic. So we do have to we did have to limit it. We also have to take some appreciation for our time. So we couldn't get a stand at Tabletop Scotland this year. We just didn't have the holidays to be there for the whole time, and we wanted to, because we've had a stand actually at it every year since it started, except for the 1 year where we couldn't get. I don't even know if it ran while we couldn't get into the country, but if it did run. Oh, okay, perfect. So then we've been at it every year. It's been on.
Year.
And it was kind of, it took us a long time to decide that we couldn't get the holidays to get a stand, because we had to spend our time otherwise. But we did still want to come, and we tried to make it work by getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and driving places and stuff like that.
Just
so
really.
Yeah.
I always wonder. I always find it funny about kind of previewers that nobody actually kind of goes. It's almost like it's a hidden cost thing. It's like, we don't talk about how much previewers are willing to charge. I know it's like a good couple of £100 or $100 or €100. I could probably do it. And I have nothing against kind of previewers that kind of charge if they've got a big enough audience and stuff like that, as long as they make it aware it's a kind of like a huge, like a preview thing. As long as they're saying, look, this is an advert. I'm being paid for this advert. The people that are paying me the money are aware it's going to go in front of several thousand people who are going to like my product or not. So there you go. That's kind of fine. So are you finished? I mean, are you kind of at the point where you're is it kind of like we're ready to go? Is there still an awful lot to do before the kind of the run up? Are you kind of like at the point where the wedding's organized? We've got the cake, we've got the flowers, we've got the car, we've got all our clothes and stuff like that. But we just happen to have done it 3 weeks early, because normally there's that mad rush in the last 48 hours. But you seem kind of both quite chill and quite prepared. What's that like?
We still have a lot to do. So more like that, negotiate on what the cost is going to be. So I feel like you're overselling our calmness.
See them. Put your hands up like this. Let's see. Put your hands up. See, the steady as rocks here. I mean, there's no.
And Kickstarter goals. We're still negotiating on what we can and can't put in, and I guess it's just the technicalities, because we couldn't have gone into this without doing the artwork. Unlike maybe we had an idea of the artwork and we had gotten with Dice Summoners, we knew what style we wanted and we had a rough idea of the cost. Whereas with this, the game doesn't work if the images don't explain the puzzle. So it's not, I couldn't have waited, and I think Owen would agree on that. That like, you just that was too important a piece to leave till after Kickstarter, because if we can't find somebody who can actually convert the images into pretty
Mm.
but functional images, this wasn't going to work. And like, Owen had to take all of my rubbish drawings and redraw them all with like a lot of like detail, because the artist couldn't understand otherwise necessarily why I have 6 squares that are exactly in these locations
Yeah.
and then have to be exactly in these locations.
Yeah.
And it made there was like this translation piece almost that had to happen, that Owen was so important to get to get those ideas through. And if we didn't do that before the Kickstarter, like that took a long time. That took a really like, Owen was working on it for months. I was working on the original designs for months. The artist was working on them. You know, that would have just meant our Kickstarter was too far away once it was released. You know, even if we had funded.
So does that mean then, in terms of production, that once the campaign finishes and you're funded, then the actual turnaround from to getting it into people's hands is going to be an awful lot shorter, because you don't have all that art and stuff like that to get done?
It does. It does. The delightful upside of it is that it's ready to go.
See?
We
Steady hands. Steady hands. See? It's all done. You know, just got to make sure when the cake turns up, it's fine and edible and everything. I don't know why. I don't know why I went in the wedding. I have no idea. Why am I don't know. I don't know. So you've not decided on stretch goals. You've not decided on funding total. You've not decided how much everything's going to be. But if people have listened along to me and said, well, you know, actually, I do want to find out about the stretch goals. I do want to find out how much it costs. I do want to find out how much it's going to cost to get into my hands, because I do want to save Snowball. Where will they find you on the internet webs? Where do you exist on the internet webs?
So I think if you specifically care about Save Snowball, go to Kickstarter and then type in Save Snowball,
Right.
obviously. And then if you want to check us out, we're on Instagram, so Decking Awesome Games.
If you want to find out where Decking Awesome Games exist online, if you go to
I think
dag.irish, IRISH. That's easy. Where else can we find? Where else can we find you?
That's the URL I was worried about. That's what was in my head the whole time. I have to spell dag.irish. So I said, anyway. Yeah, but I think Instagram is also a great place to check us out.
And you can.
And we do have Facebook and Twitter and various social medias. And on YouTube, we'll be releasing our unboxing video for the prototypes. So you can see some of the game as well.
That would be wonderful, but only certain parts of the game, not all of the game. So if I went to
Not
the
the
back
puzzles.
just now, this is went bad. What we'll do is, oh my goodness, try to get it back in the box. Who designed this? What we'll do is we'll put everything in the show notes so that we've got notes to show. It's still not going in. There we go. If you want to keep an eye on what we're up to, go to the internet webs and search for We're Not Wizards, and you'll find us in the darkness. Do you know there's just going to be a claw that's going to come out from the dark, just and just snatch me away, which is what I deserve. Go to the internet web, search for We're Not Wizards, and you'll find us in all the different places. Worn Out Faces, bright and early for the daily races. We're on Facebook and we're on Blue Sky, and we're on the Hair Plugged Emerald Merchants site as well. Captain Elon Muskie older, nobody likes to work for him. He's been kicked off several boards. We don't like him, but we're also on there just now, just until we can be bothered, and all the other wonderful places. If you've listened along to tonight on your podcast catcher of choice, please go to your podcast catcher of choice and drop us a rating or a review, or tell other people. If you are going to be dropping a rating or review, don't give us 10 stars because it makes us big-headed, but don't give us 1 star because it'll make us cry. Give us something in the middle, like a 5, because it's average. Still can't get the lid in this box. And we're a little bit average. But the people who have not been average is rather wonderful, rather fantastic. I've got the person who you could put them in any room and you could guarantee they would escape. I've got Ciara Costelloe. And I've got a man who will shout you down and tell you what you've done wrong. Or something, but he's mostly nice. Unless you're trying to create an escape room game that he's not really that fond of, but then he'll tell you how it is. I've got Eoin Costelloe. Thank you very, very much for coming on.
Thanks, Richard.
Thanks, Richard.
Great.
There's only 2 more things to do. The first thing is to remember we're many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, Eoin?
No.
Are we wizards, Ciara?
No.
Wonderful. See, that wasn't difficult, Ignacy, was it? Just saying. Another thing is to say goodbye. So it's a goodbye from Eoin. Say goodbye, Eoin.
Goodbye.
And it's a goodbye from Ciara. Say goodbye, Ciara.
Goodbye.
It's a goodbye from you. Remember, stay safe, roll 6s, make something awful. And if you fancy getting yourself a little, look at this white, you can't see this white bunny, but it's incredibly cute. You need to save them. Their name is Snowball. But until the next time, I'm going to do my best rabbit impression.
A wizard is
Goodbye.
never late. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.